Morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 7920 Southeast Orient Drive here in Gresham. Checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running. We are zeroed out and off we go. It's a long line. I'm going to zip the thing on out to the tank here. We'll drain the line off and then pull back in. Get our best view of things at that point. Same spot there grabs my camera head. Okay, we're gonna let the line drain off here for a moment. Sorry, I'm sitting here talking to myself with the microphone turned off. I apologize. Anyway, I think what was all said and done, grab my camera head, is a separated joint right here. It's hard to say with certainty if that joint's closed off to the ground or not. With the amount of settling that you've got just past this point, my concern is the joint is not secure. Because the water line there is, if it's not hitting the top of the pipe, it's very close to it. Once you get into that, you can't tell, but you've got at least 3 inches of water in there. I believe at this point we're in 4-inch pipe. I'll watch for the transition as we come back in. So anyway, there's a lot of buildup in this part of the line still. This part, I don't know if it got cleaned out effectively. You still have a bunch of gunk at the top of the pipe here. So I'm not sure if it was jetted all the way out or what have you, but you've got enough settling that's taken place here. With some of these joints the way they are, I'm concerned that they may not be secure and closed off to the ground. And bellying at the end of a septic line is a very common thing. I've cambered thousands of them. It's very common to get settling, and it's not necessarily a good thing, it's just common. I think it's because the tank over time settles, which displaces earth immediately around the tank, and anyway, causes the line at the very end to settle pretty frequently. So we're in standing water right now, although this part of it is not ultra significant. My other concern with the line, and again, the repair guys are the ones that have to do the math on it. That's not my expertise, but I put a marking down just after the clean out over near where the tank is. My depth there is about 4 feet. My concern is at a depth like that, with a line coming out at basement floor level, is there even enough depth there to grade the sewer line properly? And the line does, I mean, at the end there, you've got you've got a bit of a dive, so there might be a spot there where you can earn some grade back. I just don't know how much of that is purposeful diving or how much of it's related to settling and the pipe being contorted into that angle. But you've basically got a belly here, essentially one continuous belly from about 60 feet to 85 feet. All right, so right now we're sitting just a little bit beyond where the asphalt driveway turns to gravel. Depth here, I'm getting around 6 feet. The driveway is built up higher than where the septic tank is at. I'm getting some variances in depth there. It's a harder one for me to gauge. It's when you get uneven ground like that, but just after that clean out over there is where I was getting, and my locator wasn't jumpy at all, and there's not a lot around here to cause interference with the locator. I was getting a pretty strong reading of around 4 feet. But right there I'm getting about 6 feet. The buildup of the driveway may account for that depth change. So anyway, you run into some more standing water here, and again, you know, on its own, standing water of this nature isn't necessarily the hugest concern in the world. It's getting all of it corrected. You got the more severe standing water towards the end of the line, granted. But when you start getting it sporadically throughout the line like this, you start getting into a situation where you often are having to redo large swaths of ground in order to get that belly fully corrected. Another joint there with some separation at it. The brown substance on the joint, it's hard to say if that fine graininess there is, you know, potential dirt that's come to the joint. I think some of this may have got repaired. It's hard to tell how much of it did. We still have some debris in some parts of the line here and some schmaltz at some of the joints, so it's hard to tell exactly how much of it was dealt with. This part of the line here looks pretty darn clean. I think this may have got repaired here. And still some level of, again, not major levels of standing water right here, but it's throughout the line. And I mostly mention that kind of stuff as it relates to correcting slope and grade. Your whole pipe's dependent upon itself for slope and grade, so if you don't have it in multiple places throughout the line, even if it's relatively minor, it all plays into the gradation of the line in its totality. So I'll push back out here to where I guess we start getting a standing water closer to where the more significant belly is at the end of the sewer line. There's a grainy texture to that. I know I mentioned it last time, that it almost has the appearance of like sand. Again, I can't, it's hard to say if any of these joints are exposed to the ground or if some of that's from the repair process, but we had a similar graininess to some of the stuff that was in the pipe last time I was out here. Anyway, that's one of the things you look for, especially if you've done a lot of drain cleaning or sewer scoping. If you start getting sand, you know, stuff like that coming back on a camera or a drain cleaning implement, for instance, that generally means you are exposed to the ground. That's often how it gets in. So with a joint like this one, not being able to see back into it, my concern is, could the joint be potentially open to the ground? Again, this might be newer updated pipe here. It might be glued. And the pipe joints just aren't butted up tight against each other. It's kind of hard to say. So anyway, we still have quite a bit of standing water at the end of the line. I'm also concerned about the integrity of the pipe there at the end of the line with the amount of settling that's taken place. Plastic pipe can resist settling pretty well. But when you start getting to that point, especially with the separated joint there that keeps catching my camera head, my concern is that separation has happened because of settling and then it pulled the joint apart. And is the joint secure? Is it exposed to the ground to some extent? Or are you gonna have a progressive situation there that's gonna keep on settling? So anyway, I have marked from about 60 to 85 feet. There's at least markings out there. I'm gonna leave it up to the repair guys on, you know, that spot there is not necessarily the only part of the line that needs correcting in order to correct the standing water. So just be aware of that. That's the more significant part of the sewer line where the standing water is, and most likely to fully correct all the standing water up to the tank, you're probably going to have to take it back to at least that point at 60 feet. Repair guys will have to assess that to see if that can be done. You know, if what you're left over with here is the standing water we have up to around 65 feet, it's fairly minimal. My concern is, though, it may need to be taken all the way back to the house in order to fully correct the standing water all the way out by the tank. So that's mostly why I'm mentioning that stuff right now. The standing water starts almost immediately outside the house. Again, not major stuff, but it's sporadically throughout the whole line. So the biggest concern as it relates to flow right now is that last portion of the pipe there where we still have quite a lot of buildup in the sewer line. You know, 3 to 4 inches of standing water, it looks like. I think the line's 4 inch by the time we hit that point. It may still be 3. It also may be changing diameter right in that location there too. It's kind of hard to say, but I don't see an obvious transition unless it happens immediately after the backflow valve where it's harder to visually see that diameter change. So anyway, I would like to see the settling issues at the end of the line corrected. One, for both flow reasons, 2, for structural integrity. My concern is your pipe there may be exposed to the ground to some extent. And it's not a super uncommon thing to see on septic tanks. I've seen a lot of them settle like that. And if the joints become exposed to the ground, you can get a progressive situation where the line can settle over time to an extent where the line can, I've seen them disconnect from the tanks, things like that. So, and or the joints can open up and they can start allowing dirt and whatnot to flow into the sewer line, which leads to hydro erosion. It can also load your tank up with dirt and whatnot from outside the pipe. So anyway, I recommend repairs there to get the grade, slope and grade corrected. It may be a scenario where you have to take it back to the house to fully correct it. If you can fully correct all the standing water at the end of the line there from 60 to 85 feet, I think we're in pretty good shape there as far as flow goes. The standing water prior to that point is quite minimal. I'm still a little bit concerned on some of those joints there that are separated prior to them. You can't see into them well enough to tell if they're just not butted up tight or if they're fully secured. But you know, if you have to take it back to the house, sometimes that's the only way when you have a line like this that doesn't have a lot of depth to play with. So after any repairs are done, make sure a re-scope is performed. Check the work, and you want to do that after the trench is closed, not beforehand, just so you can catch any settling problems.